card. We purchased a 32 gig card for the receiver to start with, and every evening this receiver was stopped, the card was removed, it was placed in a computer, and the files from that day were downloaded to the computer.
Okay, so, and is that done by an independent company, or is that somebody in your son's household who does that?
No, that's what my son's wife and I read the instructions, and that's what she did every night.
So it's your son's wife who decides what gets kept from the recording?
Well, if you put it that way, I guess, yeah, but she was responsible for keeping everything.
Responsible to whom? Was there a court order that said she had to keep everything?
She was responsible to us.
To you?
And herself.
Okay, so she was basically responsible to herself and to the family to decide what gets kept on the recording, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so she could decide when the camera was on or off. She could decide what to keep that had been recorded, correct?
I'm not sure. Could you go over that again? Repeat.
Your daughter-in-law gets to decide when the camera is on and recording, and your daughter-in-law also gets to decide what gets saved that has been recorded.
Yes, sir. If you put it like that, she does. She's responsible.
Now, we had an incident earlier that you looked at. We've seen it now twice. We saw it the other day, and we saw it again today, in which you are basically exchanging words out in the front yard. Y'all have just gotten home. You're all out in the front yard, and you're exchanging words across Lane Street with the folks over there, right?
Yes, sir.
And, in fact, it's just right before that exchange between the two of you where there's 30 minutes of the video is missing.
Yes, sir.
So we don't really know what went on between you and those people for the 30 minutes prior to you walking toward them and changing words with them, do we?
No.
And it's your daughter who decides what gets kept, correct?
Yes.
Your daughter-in-law.
Yes.
Okay. So the fact that those 30 minutes, a critical 30 minutes, there's no tape of, is nobody's responsibility but your daughter-in-law, the wife of the defendant.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, also, we saw the conversations going on there between the police. The video was there, the encounter where the police were talking to those people in the corner. So we could sort of hear a little bit of the conversation they were saying. It wasn't real clear, but we could sort of hear them talking, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But somehow...
Mr. Beatty, really, it's not going to help the witness hear you if you turn your back on him.
I'm sorry.
And also if you walk away from the PA.
Okay.
I've got a speaker up here. If it'll help him, I can make it a little bit louder, but you got to be near the microphone.
I'm sorry, Judge. I feel I'm better when I move.
I understand.
Now, you alleged that two people came walking by with dogs, and when they came walking by with dogs, they made some statements about having guns, correct?
Yes, sir. I heard Roger do that.
Okay. Well, we had the video, and it didn't get picked up on the video, did it?
Guess it didn't.
Okay. So we can hear normal conversation going on clear across the street on the corner when the police are talking to them, but we didn't pick up these alleged statements about guns made to you directly in front of your son's house.
It might have been directly in front of my son's house, but it wasn't directly in line with the camera, which is something they told us in the instructions. That the microphone is more directional, just like the camera is. It has a certain field of vision.
Well, we can go back and play parts of this video where you can hear people talking in your front yard that can't be seen on camera. Would you like to go back and take a look at those?
That's up to you.
Okay, but you agree there are some of those?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it doesn't matter whether the camera's pointing there as to whether or not you can hear what it said.
It would depend on how close someone is to the camera itself at that angle that they're off from the straight ahead.
So somehow this real important statement allegedly made by Roger somehow escapes getting picked up on the camera system that seems to record everything else.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So basically, the only evidence we have that was supposedly said is your word for it, correct?
No, sir. You have 3 other witnesses that were standing there.
Okay, but the video didn't pick it up, did it?
Guess not.
Okay. Now, let's talk about, you mentioned the fact that the police, you showed up at your son's house one night, the police were there, and they were talking to him about some incident with the dogs, correct?
Yes, sir. That was the evening of the dog incident.
Right. And you said that the takeaway you took away from that was that the police refused to take the videos. Is that correct?
That's what she said. I refuse. I don't need to see the video.
You aware of the fact that Titusville Police Department, in fact, did get those videos of that incident?
No, sir, not unless they came and got them after.
Well, would you like, if I showed you the Titusville Police report where they, in fact, took receipt of the videos, would that help to refresh your memory?
My memory is that when she said she didn't, I left that evening, and I don't recall anyone telling me that they did come and get them.
Okay, so in fact, if the Titusville Police Department came back the next day and got them, and their report reflects that, you have no knowledge of that, do you?
I did not have any knowledge of that, no, sir.
Okay, so your statement that the Titusville Police Department essentially didn't do their job isn't quite accurate, is it?
I'm going to check proper form of
Argumented and sustained. Argumented and sustained.
Now, the incident of August 5th, you indicated that you came over to your son's house because you'd been called over there because there had been some confrontation about some property being stolen and that sort of thing.
That's just of it, yes.
Okay, that was August 5th. That's what you testified
Yeah.
it was on.
Right.
Are you aware of any part of that incident where your son called Gary out in the street to fight?
Not while I was there.
Okay, but are you aware if it happened before you were there?
I can't testify to something happened before I was there.
So you're unaware of a sworn statement by your son that he did that?
No. I
You don't
didn't
know
read it.
about, you don't know about that?
I didn't read it.
You didn't read it?
No.
So you don't deny that there is a sworn affidavit by your son that he called Gary out in the street to fight?
check with the form of question. He doesn't know about it.
So you're unfamiliar with that?
Objection
asking-
sustained.
Now, that incident that we saw where the police were standing out at the corner with that whole crowd out there, and then we looked it up there, and that was the question where the judge said, how can you identify those people? Remember that incident, right?
That was on what date, sir?
Not sure, I think it was on the, that wasn't on the 29th, it was on, yes, it was on the 29th, actually. It was on the 29th, approximately 6 o'clock in the evening. But you testified that you were out there observing that interaction going with the police talking to those folks on the corner. Remember that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you said that the police never came over and talked to your family about that, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. You're aware that your family wasn't the ones that called the police for that incident, correct?
Check
I
with the form of
assume-
question, it would either call for hearsay or fact, right?
Sustained.
Okay, well, let me ask this. Was it your family that called the police to be there?
Same judge.
Sustain. Well, how's he gonna know that? You could ask him if he called him.
Did you call
No, sir.
them? Okay. To your knowledge, did your son?
Judge,
No, sir.
I would call for hearsay.
Sustain.
Okay. Do you have any idea who did call the police that night?
Judge, I would call for hearsay.
Sustain.
No, I'm asking him if he knows who called the police.
Well, because yes, the only source of that information is a hearsay comment from somebody else, so that's why I'm sustaining the objection.
Now, did you hear there was part of the audio we played there about 1921, and there's conversations going on in your front yard. There's some people come out of the door, and they're out there, and there's yelling going on from across the street, but there's also conversations going on closer with people who can't be seen. They're probably standing out of camera range in your front yard. You remember that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you recall who said, "They don't know I'm crazy, maybe I should go over there and show them"? Female said that.
I don't recall who said that, no. I know I didn't say it.
Now, you were home you said the entire evening at your son's house on the entire evening in the injunction, correct? Except you went out for dinner for about an hour.
Except for dinner.
Do you remember what time you went out to dinner?
Don't recall.
Was it around 6:30?
It was before dark,
Before dark.
because it was after dark when I came back.
Okay, well, Judge, under the rule of completeness, I'm going to need to play some more of the video.
In for a penny, in for a pound, they say.
18, 30, 19. That's on the 29th.
Okay, so you're gonna play a segment of the video from the 29th
Yes.
of August.
Yes, 29th of August.
From when to when?
It's going to start at approximately 6:30 in the evening, 18:30.
And what's gonna be demonstrated on this clip?
The defendant is going to be saying things to the folks across the street. Among them is, "Come on over and get me."
Judge, I'm going to object to the publishing of this video. View of what
The judge asked me.
I'm sorry, I probably shouldn't ask the question.
Get that disc of you.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that's right. It's on there.
this was a clip off the DVD that you marked into evidence.
Yes.
Defendants 3, I think.
Yes.
All right. Very good.
It's there in the backyard. Did you recognize that voice?
No,
That wasn't your son's voice?
I don't recognize it.
You don't recognize
Is that the one that you just played?
The one who just said, no, the one who just played. Somebody yells, "How's the chickens?" And there's a response right close to the camera, says, "They're in the backyard." Did you hear that?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Did you recognize that voice?
No, I didn't. It's electronic, and this electronic
okay.
thing that I've watched it with before doesn't come through like a person's voice does. It's electronic.
Don't worry. Gary knows what kind of pussy he is.
Did you recognize the voice of saying Gary knows what kind of a pussy he is?
No, I don't recognize that voice. It's a male voice.
But you don't recognize it.
No.
Why did you try to climb inside your own car then?
You recognize that voice? Why did you try to call inside your own car then?
No, it's a male voice, but as far as identifying it, could be your voice.
No, but you don't know whose voice it is.
No.
Come again. I tell you what. You guys just don't scare me.
Hey, come on.
Whose voice is that saying, "You guys just don't scare me"? Do you recognize that voice?
No, sir. Electronic, it could be yours.
Okay. And how about the female telling your son to get back in the house?
No.
Oh, okay.
Wake up.
Who's that voice saying, "Billy, Billy"? Do you recognize that voice?
It's a male voice, I think.
It was a male voice saying, "Billy, Billy."
I'm pretty sure it was, I think.
You think?
Yeah, like I said, this thing retrieves electronic noise and processes electronic noise. It doesn't give me a lot of identifying ability.
Oh, so you don't hear very well? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Oh, so maybe there's a question about what you think you heard Roger say out in front of your house.
Absolutely not. I heard him say that. He said it loud enough that I could hear it. And I had hearing aids at the time.
Okay, so are those hearing aids selective about what you can hear?
No, they just all sound.
Are you sure it was Roger's voice you heard?
Yes.
Oh, so you can recognize Roger's voice.
15 feet away, he was right. I could read his lips too.
But you can't recognize your own son's voice.
Objection, from the question, no one's identified them.
When y'all grab some balls, they come over to my place.
Recognize who's yelling, "Billy"?
No,
You can't recognize that.
just
You can
somebody
recognize-
from over there.
Or somebody from right here.
Could be, yeah.
Okay. How about when you get some balls, come on over here. Did you recognize whose voice that was?
Nope.
No. All right. Okay, so you just heard that whole interaction of something taking place right out the front door of your son's house. The door opens, somebody comes out, somebody starts yelling, then it's Billy, Billy, door opens, they go back in, the yelling quits, and you have no idea who that is.
It was considerably louder than the voices from across the street, so it could have been my son, could have been somebody there with him.
Okay. Was there anybody else there with him named Billy?
We were probably at supper by then, I think. We might have been gone.
Okay, so the woman who's saying Billy, Billy, okay, you don't recognize that voice either.
Judge, it's already been asked and answered. I think he actually identified that as a man's voice.
That's as far as it goes.
Okay. Now, let's talk about the incident at the courthouse. Okay. Court deputies told you all to wait, don't leave yet. You all did that, did what you were told. Okay. Then you got up and you went out in front, and you and your son are all, you're about several feet behind your son, and you all are walking on the west side sidewalk, which is the side where the courthouse is on, correct?
Yes.
And across the street, there's a parking lot, correct? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the scene I just described set up is an accurate description of how things were.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then from across in the parking lot, Gary Hembry says, "Hey, look what we got for you." That, or some words to that effect.
Something about like that, yeah.
And he holds up a cell phone.
Yeah.
That's correct? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And your son, instead of continuing to walk, goes across that public street and accosts Gary Hembry. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, you indicated after that occurred you all went home. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
You neglected to mention that your son was arrested for that, correct?
Yes, he was. He was given a citation.
Okay, but that's the equivalent of arrest, correct? They gave him a citation to where he has to show up in court rather than getting booked and having to post bond, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so he was in effect arrested.
Yes.
I don't have any further questions.
Any redirect?
Just briefly, thank you. Sir, as Mr. Beatty pointed out, while you can hear people talking across the street, could you understand what those people were saying to the police officer on the video?
On the 29th?
Yeah, when we just played the video in court, you can hear some voices. I couldn't hear anything I could make out. Could you on the video? Of them talking to the police officer.
Sir?
Of them, remember, he just asked you about them talking to police officer. You recall seeing that video?
That was on the evening of the 29th, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
You said that you were watching,
Right,
okay?
right?
Even from where you were standing, could you hear everything they were telling the police officer?
No, sir.
Could you hear anything that was played in court? I could hear sounds, but could you hear the words of
No,
what
sir.
was played in court?
No, sir.
Now, based on your understanding of how that directional mic worked, would you expect that it would necessarily be able to pick up a normal conversation that would have been somewhere off to the side of the camera, wherever in the street the two of you all were standing?
Objection, speculation.
Sustained. No predicate.
You were given some basic training and manuals on the way that directional mic worked. Is that
Yes, sir.
correct?
That's correct.
And based on your understanding of that, and it being a directional mic, does it pick up in the direction that the camera is pointed as opposed to off the side?
Objection, speculation.
Why is it not?
It's not speculation because
Well, what personal knowledge does he have of the microphone construction or any of that stuff?
the training, and he previously testified that he read the instruction manual.
Well, there's no predicate for any of his testimony about how the microphone works.
Mr. Beatty asked you about this 30-minute gap in the recording. I think you previously indicated that it was your supposition that that happened during the exchange of the tape. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
But we actually see you driving up and getting out of your car in the portion of the tape that was played just before you walked over and engaged those people, correct?
That was at about the 12:40 time?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So whatever happened before the 12:40 time, you weren't even at the house, right?
That's correct, sir.
So you have no idea what happened during that half an hour that wasn't captured on video.
Yes, sir.
Certainly didn't involve any interaction between you, your son, and your wife, though, because you all were just driving up at 12:40, right?
Yes, sir.
Any more cross?
Now, just briefly, I'm sorry, sir, but we can go play that back. You're already there when that segment starts.
Object.
We can play it back if you like.
At 12:40?
Yeah.
On the 29th?
Yeah.
Sure. Way back.
Let's go back and play that segment.
Oh, what's that difference?
Oh, okay. We need, just a minute, we need segment K.
Oh, you want to know? Oh, I got you. I just want to know this.
Well, either one, doesn't matter to me, it's 12:40:52.
Single K.
K, single K, yes. Oh, that's on the morning.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
Go ahead and start at 12:10:58. We'll just jump, show the jump.
It's there.
No, 12, just put it on 12:10 and we'll show the jump. Okay, right there, go ahead.
Yes,
start.
it's close. It's here.
You ready to hear it? Yeah, I'm ready. No, not him, me. You ready? Yeah, bring it. Bring it. I heard you were pushing already. That's Gary down his ass looking ready. Bring it. Come on. You want to do this another thing?
Not any further, Judge. Oh, I guess I do one question. I don't have the pointer, I'm sorry, but right here in the foreground. Whose car is that?
In the foreground?
Yes.
I believe that's Billy's SUV. That's what it is. It's got a short hood.
Okay. The other car's, the other is his truck, right?
Billy's truck.
Okay, and that's the SUV.
Yes, sir.
It's his SUV. Does he own another car?
Do I see one?
Does he own another car other
No.
than those two?
No.
Okay. So would you agree with me that that car is parked there before the 30-minute jump?
Yes.
Okay. Nothing further.
But sir, isn't Billy in the car with you that you hear driving up on that tape? And if we continue it on, getting out of that car and walking into the house?
I'm not sure I understood everything, but Barbara brought that car home. And then we brought Billy home in our car.
Thank you.
I have any further, Judge.
Thank you, sir. You can step down.
Thank you.
Would you like Mr. Woodward to be held under?
Yes, help her to be recalled.
All right, sir. Then free to leave the courtroom and touch with the witness coordinator.
Judge, I need just a couple minutes to find out what witness is available. Sure.
I'm sorry, Roach Boy, sorry, come over here.
Ma'am, if you'll come over here and take the witness stand here to my left, there's a step up, so be careful. Please just have a seat. Would you raise your hand to be sworn? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you'll give in this case to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Would you say your name and spell your last name and speak into the microphone?
Brooke Williams, Williams.
Ms. Williams, please listen carefully to the questions you're asked. Respond directly to the question. That is, don't volunteer information you're not asked about, and please don't make a speech. If you hear an attorney object, please stop talking altogether and let me rule on the objection. If you have a question about what you're supposed to do, just ask me, okay? Go right ahead, Mr. Berry.
Thank you, Judge. Ma'am, where do you live? Or, I'm sorry, let me do it this way. Where did you live back in August, early September of 2012?
2000 Smith Drive.
Okay. Still live there?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
That's right.
2000.
And you still live there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Who you live there with?
My husband, Chris.
Okay, you know, any kids or anything?
I have a son.
Okay. How old is he?
He's 8. He just turned 18.
18.
Mm-hmm.
You don't look that old. All right. Do you know Mr. William Woodward here, my father?
I do.
Okay. How long have you known him?
It's been probably about 5 years now, 4 or 5 years.
Okay. Was he one of your neighbors?
Yes.
Where in relationship to his house did you live?
We live we're like the 4th house down from him.
Okay. Do you have good relations with him and his
Yes.
family?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know Gary Hembry?
I didn't know him. No.
Did you? Okay. Did you know of him? Would
Yes.
you have recognized him at the time?
Yes.
Okay. Did you know Kim Salisbury Cass?
No, I don't
Kim
know.
Cass. Okay. Did you know a lady who was his girlfriend?
Yes.
Would you recognize her as the lady who lived with Mr. Hembry?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Did you know where they lived?
Yes.
Okay. Was that also on Smith Drive?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Did you ever have any make any observations of any interactions between Mr. Hembry or Miss Cass and Mr. Woodward?
Yes, there was one incident. It was my husband and myself. Billy was walking his dog, and they were standing at the end of my driveway talking
Who
to
were
us.
they? Just
Oh, Billy and his dog.
okay.
And Gary and the lady was driving down the road in a car, and they swerved over towards my driveway like they were going to hit Billy and his dog.
Objection, speculation.
Sustained.
Skipping the part about like they were going to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When people are driving down that street, where do they usually drive?
Kind of in the middle.
Objection, speculation.
Sustained.
Based on your observations of driving patterns down that street, in your personal experience, where do people drive? Down
Like
that
in the
street?
middle of the road.
Okay. So in your experience, it would be unusual for someone to deviate from driving down
Yes.
the middle of the road.
Objection, speculation.
Sustained.
In her experience.
She can't generalize about the general population. She can describe individual events that she observed if she wants to, but she can't generalize about the population.
Okay. This incident where the car being driven by someone you recognized?
It was by the lady. It was like his girlfriend, ex-girlfriend. I'm not exactly sure who she was.
Okay. Without superimposing your opinions about intentions of another human being, what did you observe about the travel of the vehicle down the street?
That it veered straight towards us,
Okay.
and we had to step into the driveway.
Okay. Was there anything on the opposite side of the road
Nothing.
that you observed that necessitated that maneuver?
No,
It wasn't to avoid some dangerous situation on the
No.
other side of the road?
no.
Okay. All right. Did anything else happen that same evening?
Not really that I can remember, no. Not that.
Okay. Was there any incidents with Mr. Hembry walking his dog that you observed or anything like that?
We've seen him walk his dog, but nothing that I can really really comment on.
Okay. Would seeing a summary of your interview perhaps refresh your memory about any incidents like that? Do you remember giving a statement to the police shortly after the
I
issue?
do.
The idea here is not to